Hey guys, before we get into the video, I want to tell you a little bit about it. This was a really fun stream that I did with Cramling back February 16th. I had never done this before, but she came up with something called Guess the Eval, which she's done a few times on her stream. Basically, the idea is simple. It's sort of like Guess the Elo, but instead of guessing the actual ratings of the players that played the game, you take a specific position from the game, doesn't matter who was playing it, and the goal is to guess the computer evaluation and try to be as close as possible. I think there's a clear advantage to being a higher rated player, but I think this video is really instructive and pretty entertaining. You get to see Anna's perspective and my perspective. We were both streaming at the time, and you get to see the difference between our interpretations of the exact same position, and most importantly, you get to see who won and who was closer overall. So I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Take a look.
It is gonna be pretty hard. So basically we're gonna be doing Eval Gasser, which is basically that we get a position, and I'll be sending you a link to a different position. So just make sure that you have your like engines turned off when you see it, so you don't know the evaluation immediately. Because I've done that mistake a lot of times.
Defeat the whole game right there.
But basically, what we're going to do is that we're going to be having a position, and we are going to be looking at that position, and we are going to be trying to guess what the evaluation is of it.
Yep. So you'd send me a link to the position, then we both bring it up on our streams. We can mute for some minutes, talk about it, and then jump back in the call together and give our guesses, and then see what it is, and then see who's right.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. This is really hard. Oh, after 95, black to move. Okay, this is the position. All right. Oh no, this one is crazy.
Black to move after knight d5. Oh no, not this more shit. God damn it.
If takes and takes with check, this has to be super good for white. This has to be good. What is the material right now? So black is one pawn up. Takes. If knight e7, there's gonna be d6. Oh, this is gonna be a hard one. And if this one, but maybe it's fine because you just take it. But it's like, you know, what else happens? It's like it's gonna be. I think it might be relatively equal. I'm not sure.
Oof, brutal. Because for a human, this is +10. This is winning, boys. We all know this is game over. White's winning. This is +10, +20. But the engine is going to be like -1.
Takes. I think it might be equal because it might be just something like this, and then queen c5, and then you take, and you're fine. You know, it's going to be equal pawns, equal everything, just that this king is a little bit more unsafe. That is going to be like mainly the difference, I think. What happens after something like just simply, you know, queen b8? What happens then? Oh, there's bishop f4. This looks like a Smith Mora position, actually.
So, if black moves there, I mean, for sure white is happy. So, there's knight b6 or bishop f4 or something. So, takes, knight there, d6. Does that just win on the spot? It looks like it does. Takes, there's no other knight move, and if white takes here, white's much better. So the best move for black must be moving the queen. It has to be.
I'm thinking that if takes, check, we go knight over here, we're a piece up, d6, and, because that is what looks scariest, queen b6, bishop f7 check, king over here, knight check, king over there. I know this is pretty long, but and something like queen, I don't know, but is it really that winning? I'm not sure. If this is black, fine for black, then I'll probably say that this is like relatively equal. Just because of the fact that, yeah, black is a pawn up, but no, there's no development for black, and that is also like, you know, development is so important. So I would say if black is fine, you know, it's equal. Even like plus 0.20, 0.30 for white, but because yeah, they're a pawn up, but it doesn't matter right now because they haven't castled. They need to bring their pieces out, etc. But I definitely think that white is better here, actually.
This is garbage. So let's say that's garbage. Where does the queen move? Okay, queen b8. Bishop f4. Maybe d6. And how good is it for white? What's the next move, you know? You play this. But how good is it for white? I think it's better for white. But probably not by a lot. Let's say queen d8 or something, for example. I think white's better, but it's not going to be crazy, right? Because there's nothing to take. I don't think it's going to be crazy. Jeez, I would say I would say maybe it's better for white, but like nothing wild. You're generally not supposed to allow knight d5 though, so the fact knight d5 works already tells me it's probably at least +1.
Queen b8, and it's the same thing. If queen b8, the only way queen b8 would be fine is if bishop f4, you know, wouldn't do, you know, if you could play this after, but I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. It all looks very scary. That knight looks extremely scary. Even that position, I would say, is at least like +1.5 for white because of this amazing knight over here. This knight is a monster, guys.
I was thinking initially like 0.8, 1, but I'm seeing good moves for white against both of these queen moves, and I don't like him. Queen b8, bishop f4, d6, e5 looks wild, and that always means that white's basically winning. I'm going to go 1.4. Around there. That's what I'm thinking.
Aman, this was so hard.
This one's brutal because I think it's a little bit concrete. You have to do like some real calculation. And it's the Smith-Morra, which is a brutal opening to evaluate.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I don't know. Like, I was trying to calculate this, and if I'm gonna be honest, from like what I calculate right now, I couldn't find like a concrete win for white. Even though this looks extremely good, like this is just like the dream position. I feel like when, you know, like the king is in the center, the bishop and the knight still haven't developed. You cannot even castle queenside, and you're gonna be staying in the center for a long time, and you get to do this knight d5 idea. Like this is literally the dream in the Smith-Morra. It feels like.
Yeah. That the problem is, you know, as humans see this and it's like, okay, this is +10, white's winning, game over, resign.
Yeah.
But the engine is always gonna be more realistic about the position. But I think we all know that when white gets to play knight d5 in the Smith-Morra like this, and black can't take it, and it certainly looks like they can't because white just takes and goes d6.
Yeah.
Then white usually has an advantage already. So because we know that, then the next thing to do is like start searching for what comes next, and let's say black moves the queen. That's what I was saying about calculation. Then it's like, ugh, okay, we really just need to sit here and try to find a win for white.
Yeah. So I know I was thinking here of like instead of taking, if you could go like queen b8 as black, but I was just thinking like bishop f4 just looks really good as well because you pretty much have to go like e5 or something then. Or what do you think after something like queen b8 if black would play queen b8 over here?
Well, bishop f4 looks like a great start. I think if black would play e5 against bishop f4,
yeah,
he could almost, it feels like he could almost resign. Like bishop on b3 would be way too strong.
Yeah.
So the pawn usually has to stay on e6 for black, or they're just completely toast. So I would say after bishop f4, I would expect something more like d6 to try to keep things closed. And after d6, I was thinking that white, in their typical fashion in this opening, would play e5. And just like total chaos, and I swear white always just like crushes those positions.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I definitely wouldn't want to play this.
The other move for black, I guess, is queen d8.
Yeah.
Just back to d8, and I wasn't sure there. There's, you know, there's like bishop e3 and bishop g5 that came to my mind. But it's tough because you never find a clear win, but at the same time, if white's knight can just sit there on d5 and black can't take it, it has to be really good for white.
No, I was telling my chat, like, I thought that if this knight can just sit there and just have this position, this has to be at least like +1.8 or +2 for white. If you can just like, if there's nothing better, you know? Yeah, I don't know. My final answer was that this was like plus Actually, I didn't say my final answer. Chat, my final
can say
answer
it
is
now.
plus 2.2.
Plus
I'm
2.2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus 2.
I have
Yeah.
a sneaky suspicion you might be more correct than me. My range was between like 1.4 and 1.6. So I'll go with 1.45.
Okay. GG, Amon.
So I'm seeing like 1.1.2. But yeah, and I think we should really let the engine sit on this one.
No, but you were but you were a lot closer than me though. Anyways, yeah, queen d8 is the best move. It makes sense actually, but all other moves are really good for white. But there is queen d8.
Yeah, queen d8, bishop e3 was the line that I was thinking of,
Yeah.
and yeah, I didn't I didn't really know how to evaluate after that.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's 1-0 for you because you were a lot closer than me. I said plus 2. So
Yep, I'll take that one. I'll take that one.
you're
But to be
winning on
fair,
this.
your guess on the first one was pretty fair. Like I mean 1.5 to 2 point whatever, and I didn't do it, so maybe 1 to 0.5.
You'll give me half a point for that one?
Half a point for that because I wasn't a participant there, so I think you got to get some credit for still playing.
That's very kind of you, Amon. We'll say that one. 1 versus 0.5. Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay.
So black to move after knight takes f5. So this is the position. The pawns are actually even here. And very importantly, rook g8 does not just win the entire game on the spot. There's knight g7. But I can tell you that white's position looks could be suspicious. It's black to move. I think black's move is very important, and it might have to be this. Black's bishops are really bad, though. A7 and c6, totally useless. Rook's not doing anything. So let's say rook g8, knight g7. Black. Let's say black just goes random move, rook c8. My question is, what is white doing? Where are the threats for white? Because e6 doesn't look like much. So let's say it's like a rook lift, like rook f4, rook f3. And you go here and you take. That wants to lead to mate, but I still don't think it does.
But anyways, it's black to move, so rook here is the first thing that's coming to mind. Rook g8, and then knight g7 could be an idea. Knight g7 is the only way to play, right? Because this move has to happen. Right now, white is threatening checkmate. So this move has to happen to stop checkmate. Actually, something that's really interesting, now that I'm thinking about it, is that after rook g8, knight g7, there's a lot of checkmating ideas perhaps for black. Or for white. Like going rook here, and, threatening things. I don't know. I think white is better there, actually. I do think that white is better in this position.
But it feels like after knight g7, white just has a free roll to like bring the pieces over here, and black can't do anything about it. And there's not enough threats that black can make. I think what's crucial though after knight there is the move b4, I would guess, or something attacking this. So let's say b4, you can't take this way. So you take with the pawn, then black goes bishop b5. The rook is hit. You go rook f3, right? And then black goes rook c8, and he's threatening rook takes c3 with bishop d4 coming. Meanwhile, I don't believe this yields any threats. So I think this game is actually a lot better for black than it looks. And I think it might be because of this and b4. Bishop can't take, so let's say pawn take, bishop b5, activating, hitting this. White still has no threats, and then as soon as rook c8 comes, I get very concerned about the position.
Because there's so many, this h7 pawn is going to be very weak, I think. That's the first thing that's coming to mind after this. So could this be better? I don't know. Maybe this could be better because of that. But then I don't know, queen g4, boom, boom. Actually, I think there might be. Wait, what? Can you sack the queen? Then it's, wait, rook g8, queen g7, takes, king g8, king h1 I wanted to go. Because the bishops are so weird. And then I want to go rook g1 and knight h6. Or can you go for that immediately? Bam, 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 bam. You're gonna be a piece down then, though. This looks very very nice, though. Okay, no, actually, I don't think this works, because I think you don't have time. If you had time to bring this rook to g1, it would be good, but I think that after this, king h1, there's h6 or h5, and, you know, then knight h... No, then, yeah. I don't think it works.
So I don't think I could say this is better for black. I don't see any continuation. But I don't think it's crushing for white. Yeah, I'd probably give an edge to white, maybe like plus 1.8, something like that. Because I don't see how black covers everything. And at some point, e6 is going to cry. I feel like the evaluation is getting better and better the more the engine thinks about it. Yeah, because I don't see anything concrete for black. White has to play some defense, I think, to those threats, but there is e6 and f7, which is pretty damn strong. Yeah, I might say low twos.
So, I think that these bishops are very bad. So, and I think after knight g7, these bishops are disastrous. I also think that there's going to be a lot of, you know, looking at h7, it's equal material. So I think in general, this should just be good for white. So even something like, yeah, even something like just going rook f3, rook h3, queen c2, I think would be fantastic. Looking at h7. I don't even know how you're going to stop it. I just don't see it. Maybe you need to sacrifice. All right, I'm going to say like plus. Okay, bing, bang, boom. +5 is in the room. I'm going to say +5. Hello. Do you feel ready, Amon?
Hey, Anna.
Hello.
Yeah, I thought this one was very tough, but I think I have a range. Yep.
Yeah. I have a final answer, but I think this can be either or, but okay, so should we say it at the same time or what were you thinking?
Well, you know, Anna, I wouldn't let your guess influence mine. So I trust
That is
myself
true. You shouldn't, Amon.
to not let it affect my answer.
Yeah, okay, so
In fact, it might give me more confidence. So actually, please go first.
Okay. So, yeah, my final answer was +5 for white. I think white is winning. But I'm not sure. My idea was rook g8 is the only way to stop this, right? So to stop the checkmate on g7. So you pretty much have to go rook g8. And then my plan was to go knight g7. That's what I wanted to do. And my idea was just to try to checkmate on h7. And I don't really see how you're going to stop it as black. So my plan was just to go basically rook f4, rook h4, queen c2, and checkmate.
For me, the 50-50 is that I just don't really know how confident the computer is going to be on this attack because I don't see that many ways to stop it, but there are a few resources for black, like b4 and bishop b5. And one thing that can never happen is if, let's say, rook g8, knight g7, b4, let's say pawn takes b4, bishop b5, and let's say you did like rook f4 to do your plan.
Yeah.
If I played bishop d3 there, I think you almost like you're really running. Your plan is very hard to execute all of a sudden because the bishop might just like go on g6 and just like sit there.
Yeah, no,
and
for
if
sure.
black can ever sack the rook for the knight on g7, you might be winning, but again, it's not going to be like it's not going to be crazy. It's just be like, okay, you're winning, but it's not force or something. So you have to watch that like the bishop doesn't get around to that diagonal, and black also has like a few tricks with rook c8 and try to play rook takes c3 and bishop takes d4 because your knight's on g7.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think that white should be winning. Knight on g7 is so strong. e6 is a threat with like f7 coming. And I don't know, this might be just the conservative in me, but I was a little more conservative with my guess, even though I do agree with your assessment. I think white is winning. I think white's totally winning, but I was kind of more like very conservative. So this will be interesting because I went with something more like plus 2.2, let's say.
Yeah.
2.2, 2.3. and you went with +5, and I actually think that eventually this is going to be +5. I just hope it's not +5 right now.
Yeah, I think that's interesting though, because I think it really shows that I was just like really optimistic about this, but you found a lot of good resources. And I think that the stronger you are as a player, the more resources you can find for, the opponent. I was just trying to win this with white.
Yeah, well, whenever you're feeling that confident, like about something, then you always look for the flip side. If you were in their shoes, like you wouldn't just sit there and get mated. You'd do something, to get active. So B4 is pretty much the only thing you can do that I could see. So, and I actually kind of psyched myself out into a 2.3. The first thing I said was 1.8. And then I was like, no, I got to go a little higher because I think long term, knight g7 and like this rook f3, h3 thing, I just thought it would work eventually. Maybe not immediately. But I think this is kind of an interesting one to get after I just said what I said at the end of the last one, how it's really hard to just mate someone. So it's really easy to get a nice eval in your head, like, oh, I'm crushing here. Yeah, just rook f3, rook f4, I'm gonna mate them. But
Yeah.
there's always resources. There's always stuff to do defensively.
Yeah.
The line that I was looking at was rook g8, knight g7, b4, a takes b4, bishop b5. And I thought to play rook f3 there to defend the bishop. And then rook a c8 by black to make that threat of like rook takes c3 and bishop takes d4.
Yeah, this is the
And
best line. Well,
and then like rook d1 or something to defend it. And then I was just looking at this position after rook d1 and I was like, I don't really see exactly what black can do next, but at the same time, there's always going to be a rook takes c3 to like not get mated, and there's always going to be a sack somewhere, a bishop a4 to try to like get on the diagonal. And if black ever plays bishop d3, bishop c2, ever covers h7, then I'm like, oh, I don't have any attack anymore. So
yeah, and if we go into this line, like where you said with rook d1, that's actually like plus 2.12. So that's like really close to what you said.
yeah, so I might not have evaluated the best line, but the line I evaluated was close to my guess. Okay, I said 2.2, 2.3, and I played rook g8, knight g7, and it said 2.26 after. This is really, it's like dead on. It's a little scary.
I'm on the engine.
A little scary.
Do you want to find an engine? Just find an Amon.
Yeah, I'm right over here, except let me tell you, Anna, if you look at my Arena Kings games, you would not be saying that.
I think this is a really cool game, though. I really like this one.
So, I think that actually, I know we're having some fun here, but I think that was a relatively interesting, teachable moment. Because I was serious what I said before. I think it's really good advice. Your position is never as hopeless as you think. Especially, like, even this one. It looks like there's just literally no stopping this and some sort of mate. But there's always more resources than you think. Even to the point where bishop c5 is actually a move here. And a pretty decent one. I think b4 in this is a little bit more obvious. More human. But the point is, there's always resources. And you should always be a little bit more conservative in your estimates about how well you're doing or how good your position is. And always make sure you consider what your opponent can do defensively. Black to move after bishop c5. Okay. So this is the position. Well, there's obviously checkmate. Checkmate in 1 is threatened. All right, so that's clear. The question is, first of all, what's the material? So black's up a rook right now, and basically is threatening. Like, to me, rook d7 wins this chess scheme on the spot. Unless I'm missing something. Knight takes e6, takes, king there, takes, king there is nothing. Up everything. The problem with this is no one's going to be able to get it right. Because it's going to be like it's going to be minus a bajillion or something. So rook here, queen there. Bishop takes c5. Queen has to take on c5. And then it's like black is so winning. It's so winning.
It looks like white is just gonna checkmate very soon. Oh, and they went bishop takes c5 and they lost because the queen takes b7. It looks like white is gonna checkmate very soon. Is there any way for black to defend? It's the question. So I guess that the first thing that comes to mind is what happens if rook here, but then you just... Oh, black is like up a lot of material. So rook g8. Okay, interesting. But rook g8, there seems to be queen here, yeah? Is there any defense? Oh, then you take it. So rook g8 is the first move that comes to mind for me. Rook d7, I'm just afraid of queen here. And there might be this. There might be this. But yeah, I mean, the thing is clear though. If white doesn't checkmate, black is winning.
Pawn takes here probably. Knight takes e6, queen c6. That looks like maybe the top line. And the material there is black's up a pawn and a rook. Pawn and a rook, and I'm about to play queen c6, which looks like it forces a trade. So pawn and a rook is 6 points, but the fact that I have the center pawns and all that, it's got to be more than -6. It's got to be like, I don't know, minus like 8.5 or something.
It could be. No, rook d7 is probably better because queen b, yeah, because if queen b6, we just have bishop takes d5 anyway. So rook d7. Sure, anyway. Yeah, if we exchange queens, is winning for black. I don't think there's anything. There's just that winning for black, isn't it? Like +7 or +6 or 7 or something. I mean, queen d7 could be good as well. You know, any of those moves is good. I don't think there's any difference. Yeah, I would say it's like +7 or so. I mean, -7. Sorry, -7.
So this is going to be a tough one. I don't think I'm really going to do that well because the problem is it's just so hard to evaluate what the engine is thinking. But I would say it's -6 by material from the lines I can see. And then you just have to add the fact that as pieces get traded, you get closer to endgame, it's going to go up and up. And the fact that the more clearly something is winning, the more the evaluation is going to be. So if I have a rook and a pawn, but every piece is still on the board, the evaluation is going to be much lower than if I have a rook and a pawn versus just a king, right? Because rook, pawn versus king, then there's probably going to be checkmate in 7 on the board or something like that. You know what I mean? So because we get the line simplifies a lot of things, I think it should be even higher. So I feel like I'd probably go like, I don't know, -8, 8.7 or something. I think if anything, it's higher. There's no way it's lower than that. Maybe taking and the knight just like stays somewhere, knight f3. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I'm going a little too high with 8.7. Maybe like 8.2. Just because you still have a queen on the board. But yeah, I'm going to go probably low 8s. Could be wrong. -8.2. It's going to be a tough one though. If anything, it's the eval could only be higher than what I'm going to guess. I've been guessing pretty conservative. So yeah. I was initially thinking high 8s, but it's hard for me to go over -9 when there's still a queen and rook on the board and a knight in the line that I can see.
Hello, Amon. I'm just confused about something right now. I don't know if I'm having a brain sleep right now, but for me on chess.com it says that black is like up 6, but I can't count that. Oh, it's the rook that's gone. Okay, I'm kidding.
Good joke, you got me.
I couldn't see it. Okay.
So I'm guessing that your evaluation was probably pretty off then.
No, my evaluation was my final evaluation was like -6, -7. I'm gonna say -6.5 to put it somewhere in between.
Okay, I was gonna say if you didn't see the rook, then maybe you would have had this around even or something.
Oh no, I was trusting more, the chess.com telling me that it was +6 for black more than my own calculation. I just thought I was going crazy for not being able to count it. Yeah.
I had this one. Well, basically, there's mate in 1 threatened, and it seems to me like rook d7 is the move that black's gonna play to stop it, and then I'm gonna be able to trade the bishops, and I'm gonna be able to play like pawn takes e5. So I'm gonna be up a pawn. Well, in that position, I'm up 2 pawns and a rook. And if white plays knight takes e6 to get one of the pawns back, then I thought I can play queen c6, which forces the queens off. And with the queens off the board, generally the evaluation should be a lot higher because we're very, very close to, well, yeah, like very close to winning, let's say.
Mm.
So I gave a little bit more of an optimistic, like minus 8.2, because I think that things are going to get traded. And let's say if I have an extra rook against you and you only have a king, the
Mm.
evaluation will be super high because it'll probably
Yeah.
say force mate or minus a billion. And if I have an extra rook and it's move 3, the evaluation might even be like less than the value of the rook. It might be like minus point, minus 4.2 or something, because
Yeah.
there's still a lot of game to play. There's a lot of pieces. So I'm thinking that because a lot of pieces and trades will happen, that it'll be a little bit higher for black. But I thought initially that it could only be higher than what I thought. I was worried I was going too low. That was my thought.
Yeah, and now that you're saying it, I agree with you. Like, I think it's higher. So yeah, I think you're gonna be 100% right. I think that I'm going too low, but I've already said that. But I do agree with you. I think it's gonna be like -8, -9. Now that now that I'm seeing that things are gonna get exchanged as well. It was the same thing that I had. Like, I would say that if like the queens were off, this would say like whatever thing they want to say. But
Yeah.
because the queens are still here, I thought that maybe they might say that white has like a tiny little bit of play, and that's why they wouldn't go up so much. But I didn't see that the queens could probably get exchanged relatively soon. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. That's just like a possibility. So that's where I could be wrong. Because I don't know if it's like totally forced. But the other thing is that black's position seems relatively compact, whereas white has like E pawn kind of hanging, A pawn, way up the board, G pawn pushed in front of the king,
Mm.
isolated pawn on C2. So it just looks like there's other things that are kind of shaky about white's position that also contribute to a computer's appreciation of black's position.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and check this out. Um.
Looks like
Minus
evaluation's
8.14. Are you kidding me, Aman? Are you?
Okay, that was pretty damn good. That was
Are you
pretty damn good.
actually kidding me?
Yeah.
You literally
I
said
will pat myself
820.
on the back for that.
This is insane. No, this is absolutely insane. Wow. This is actually really cool. Yeah, so let's actually look at the best line. So rook d7. I feel like queen d7 could be a possibility too, but rook d7 just seemed even better.
Yeah,
Personally.
exactly. Rook d7 forcing, right? If you keep the
Yeah.
initiative, it's always gonna be better.
Yeah. Queen takes c5 and then oh, what? the engine is going knight takes g4.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if, and you can do knight takes g4 now or after, but knight takes g4 now is a fancy move because then after you take the pawn on e5, if the knight takes on e6, you play queen takes g4. And I was thinking that black could play f takes e5, knight takes e6, and knight takes g4 then, but it's better to sack it first. So it is, yeah, same idea. But my one was like knight takes c6, queen c6, and I just thought, oh, if you trade the queens off, queen c4, queen c6, it's got to be like completely winning.
Yeah. Yeah, queen.
So I was just adding to the exact evaluation. So it was like a rook and a pawn, so I knew it was -6 at least, and then I have to add some value to white's like loose pawns and like poor pawn structure. So maybe it's like 0.5 or 0.75 for that. So you're getting up there a little bit, and then I was adding the fact that we're actually going to be probably trading queens as well. So you add a little bit more to that, and so I got up to 8.2.
Cool. Yeah, I think that this, like we've seen throughout all these games, that you're just able to like spot those like extra resources. Like I feel like I've been seeing some, the main ideas, but you're just able to spot those like extra things at the end of the line. And I think that's like what really, I think that really just shows the difference in level between you and me. Which I think is really cool for people to see, how that translates into evaluating different positions.
Yep. Well, I definitely agree. And I had thought in my head that before we did this, I never done it before, but it seems crazy to think that it wouldn't help to be higher rated.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
it should definitely be an advantage to be higher rated when you're guessing the eval, because I said this right before we started to my chat, but I think that one of the things that separates players once you're both like definitely good chess players is more like evaluation than calculation. So
Hmm.
like, 2500 and Magnus, they might be able to calculate the position the same way because, 2500 is a very, very good chess player. But the resulting position that they calculate to, and they can both calculate there, Magnus will be able to evaluate it much better. So they might reach the same position calculation wise, but when they get there, Magnus is going to know what moves comes next. He's going to know where the weaknesses are, why it might be a little bit better or preferred for one side. He's just going to be able to understand and evaluate it better.
For sure. I think that's yeah, I totally agree with you.
And I think this was I think very instructive, but you got to give yourself some credit because you were basically on the right path for every puzzle. There's just some resources, as you said,
Yeah.
that you weren't adding on to your evaluation. So in some cases you were too high because there were defensive resources, and in some cases you were too low because you weren't appreciating, how many pieces could disappear and how the advantage could be converted. So
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of fun.
For sure. It was really fun that you wanted to do this with me, Aman. We could do it again in the future if you want to, or do something else. For sure, but this was super fun.
Yeah, no, likewise.